What if the darkest terrors of the prehistoric world suddenly woke up? Actually, what if they never left? What if giant insects survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs and humanity evolved alongside them? We are no longer the apex predator. This is the ongoing saga. To understand our world, we have to go back to the Carboniferous period, roughly 358 to 299 million years ago. During this time, the Earth's continents were merging into a supercontinent called Pangaea. Massive tropical swamp forests filled with giant club mosses, tree ferns, and towering trees covered the land. Because there were no substantial decomposing fungi yet, dead plant matter simply piled up and fossilized into the vast coal reserves we rely on today. This was an era long before the first dinosaur ever took a breath, and it was ruled by monsters. Meet Meganeura, a predatory griffinfly with a wingspan of over 2 feet. It ruled the skies, swooping down to hunt other insects and even small amphibians. On the ground, the undisputed heavyweight was Arthropleura, a heavily armored millipede the size of a modern automobile, weighing up to 110 pounds. It roamed the swampy forest as a detritivore, safely consuming massive amounts of dead woody plant matter. For over a century, scientists debated what this creature's head actually looked like. It wasn't until a breakthrough discovery in 2024 in France that we finally saw its face. High-resolution microcomputed tomography scans of exceptionally preserved fossils revealed a round head with slender antennas, stalked eyes, and 2 sets of feeding appendages. This finally confirmed that it was a peaceful plant eater, filling the ecological niche of modern elephants, spending most of its time simply eating. And in the shadows lurked Pulmonoscorpius, a cat-sized scorpion actively hunting in the dark. With relatively small pincers, it relied almost entirely on highly potent lethal venom to take down its prey. But how did bugs got so big? The answer is in the air. Today our atmosphere is 21% oxygen, but back then it spiked to 35%. Insects don't have lungs, they breathe through tiny tubes called trachea. This hyper-rich oxygen literally supercharged their biology, allowing them to grow to nightmarish proportions. Specifically, oxygen travels through the tissues through tiny openings in the body walls called spiracles, diffusing down the trachea because gas molecules diffuse at a rate proportional to the source of concentration. The 35% oxygen levels of the Carboniferous meant that gas could reach much deeper into their enlarged bodies without them suffocating. In our real history, they went extinct for 3 main reasons. First, climate change. The Earth's climate eventually became cooler and much drier. The endless humid swamp forests where these giant bugs lived and thrived completely dried up and collapsed. Second, dropping oxygen levels. Because those massive forests died off, the record high oxygen levels in the atmosphere dropped significantly. Because insects breathe through simple tubes rather than lungs, they relied entirely on the super-rich oxygen to support their massive bodies. Once the oxygen levels fell, they could no longer survive at the sites. However, recent studies using high-power electron microscopy have challenged the oxygen limitation theory entirely. Researchers found that the space occupied by tracheoles in an insect's flight muscle is typically only 1% or less. If atmospheric oxygen truly set a strict size limit, there should be a massive compensatory growth in the tracheoles, but there isn't. They easily had the psychological room to grow larger regardless of the dropping oxygen. Third, new predators and competition. As time went on, new animals evolved, including early reptiles, early mammal ancestors, and eventually flying vertebrates, like the pterosaurs. These animals were faster and more agile, so they outcompeted the giant bugs for food and actively hunted them. But in this timeline, history took a very different turn. Instead of suffocating, nature found a way. Over generations, long before the dinosaurs even arrived, these ultimate survivors adapted to the dropping oxygen. They evolved active ventilation systems, rapidly pumping their abdomens to force air deep into their bodies. Eventually, they centralized their tracheal tubes into true primitive lungs, breaking the atmospheric size limit forever. Fast forward to 66 million years ago, a massive asteroid strikes Earth, triggering the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event. The impact of this massive 10 to 15 kilometers wide asteroid triggered earthquakes, tsunamis, and hurled vaporized rock into the atmosphere. A lingering impact winter blocks out the sun, halting photosynthesis and wiping out the dinosaurs. Only tetrapods weighing less than 25 kilograms managed to survive the initial devastation. So how did the giant insects survive the apocalypse? While large reptiles starved, massive detritivores like Arthropleura thrive by feeding on this endless supply of dead and decaying plant matter, blanketing the dark earth. But what about the freezing darkness of the impact winter? The answer is biological superpower called diapause. Diapause is a hormonally regulated, genetically programmed state of developmental arrest that allows insects to survive extreme environmental adversity. By entering this state, giant arthropods effectively reduce their metabolic rates to near standstill, safely sweeping through the nuclear winter while the great reptiles perished. During diapause, insects undergo extreme physiological changes. They significantly reduce their body temperature and metabolic rate to conserve energy. At a cellular level, they downregulate protein synthesis and rely on increased expression of chaperone-like proteins to protect their DNA and biological integrity from environmental stress. If exposed to the radiation from the depleted ozone, specialized enzymes like photolase efficiently repair their DNA lesions. Millions of years later, humanity evolves, but we are not the undisputed masters of the planet anymore. Protecting our fragile global agriculture is a daily, often unwinnable war against the biology of scale. In our real world, a single 1 square kilometer swarm of desert locusts contains up to 40 million insects and can consume the same amount of food as 35,000 people in a single day. To put this into perspective, during the 2020 desert locust upsurge in East Africa, swarms grew to extraordinary sizes. A single large swarm can travel up to 90 miles a day and can consume up to 1.8 million metric tons of green vegetation daily, enough to feed 81 million people. The World Bank estimated that damages and losses from this single event amounted to nearly $8.5 billion. In this alternate timeline, scaling that ravenous appetite up to swarms of insects the size of hogs or massive herds of 50 kilogram herbivorous means entire regions of farmland can be eradicated in hours. Furthermore, researchers have discovered a terrifying atmospheric phenomenon. Where millions of these giant insects swarm, the sheer friction of their bodies generate atmospheric electric charges comparable to a massive thunderstorm cloud. Researchers measuring the electric fields of ordinary honeybee swarms found they can change atmospheric electricity by 100 to 1000 volts per meter. Scaling that up to millions of eagle-sized insects, a swarm doesn't just block out the sun. It literally alters local weather events and fries unshielded electrical grids with massive static discharges. Our world no longer belongs to us. Forget suburbs. Humanity hides inside towering fortified megacities, built to survive creatures heavier than motorcycles. Roads are war zones, and Arthropleura crossing the highway is like smashing into a moving concrete wall. Every transport vehicle is armored like military hardware just to survive supply runs. The skies are even worse. Modern jet engines can survive bird strikes because birds are soft. But Meganeura are living tanks. Wrapped in rigid chitin armor, at cruising speed, a collision doesn't splatter, it explodes. Titanium fan blades shatter apart instantly, turning passenger aircraft into falling debris. Civilian flight is gone, only heavily shielded military craft dare enter the skies. And nightfall is when humanity truly loses control. Pulmonoscorpius hunts the darkness with venom powerful enough to shut down prey in seconds. Pets vanish first, then people. Curfews become law across the planet because after sunset, stepping outside is no different than entering a predator's hunting ground. Unable to poison or shoot the storms efficiently, humans had to invent new ways to survive. We turn to the invisible warfare. Many insects possess highly sensitive auditory organs capable of detecting ultrasonic frequencies well beyond the human hearing limit of 20 kHz. For instance, certain moths and lacewings can detect ultrasonic frequencies as high as 240 kHz. Massive ultrasonic emitters arrays are built into the walls of our megacities, broadcasting deafening high-frequency sound waves designed to disorient and repel flying storms before they reach population centers. While birds cannot hear in the ultrasonic range, for giant insects these frequencies induce severe auditory distress and spatial disorientation, acting as a highly effective and non-lethal deterrent. Furthermore, engineers have weaponized the electric grid. The generation of dynamic electric fields forces charges to move rapidly across space and time. By deploying strong dynamic electric fields, we can disrupt the delicate sensory hairs and internal nervous systems of the insects, creating invisible walls of static defense. We live safely behind barriers of high-frequency noise and electricity. But humanity didn't just survive, we adapted. Eventually, we stopped seeing the storm as monsters and started seeing them as resources. Their armor changed civilizations forever. The same chitin shells that once deflected bullets are now harvested and transformed into ultra-light armor, medical implants, flexible bioplastics, and advanced wound treatments. Scientists even discovered that chitin-based materials are incredibly effective at blocking radiation. Today, the walls of deep space habitats and off-world colonies are reinforced with the processed insect armor. And the food crisis? Ironically, giant insects solved that too. These creatures convert waste into protein with terrifying efficiency using far less land, water, and energy than traditional livestock. Humanity eventually industrialized massive vertical insect farms to feed entire populations. We stopped fighting them and started farming them. We now share the earth with the titans of the Carboniferous. It is a harsher world, a more dangerous one, but also a world filled with possibilities humanity never imagined. We are no longer the only giants on this planet. What do you think? Will humanity survive, or eventually the titans will wipe us out? Let us know your survival strategies in the comments below.